I just remember enjoying my ag classes. I was an ag major and I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite well done, and I got a lot out of it, and I followed up with a career in agriculture, so it worked.
I was a music major, and after I met John, I ended up being a rodeo gal.
Yeah, I was the rodeo boss in my senior year. We put on the rodeo. That was a lot of fun.
And so I would just stand on the other side of the fence and watch him rope and cheer him on.
That was a lot of fun. I went over to Blythe in 1953 after I got out of the Air Force after the Korean War, because I thought that agriculture was going to dry up here in central Arizona. They would build houses on most of the farmland and or acquire the water for urban growth. So that's one of the reasons I went over there. They call it the little valley there in Blythe, Palo Verde Valley, has California's first priority on the Colorado River. It's about as pristine a water right as there is in the Southwest. I think there might be too much political opposition to have a major water transfer from an ag area to an urban area in the future. However, the power of the urban area may override that, and that's going to be interesting to see. If central Arizona keeps expanding in population, there is a growing need for water, more water. We eventually will want to tap Yuma's water, and the war will be on. We've already confiscated most of the water in Arizona for urban use. Very little left in agriculture, mainly down in Yuma County. I guess eventually virtually all this water will be confiscated for urban use, and agriculture will vanish. Thankfully, we can buy our food from other places, but it does seem a shame not to. It does seem a shame to see the gradual extinction of agriculture in the state. I think that most of the things that the federal government gets their hand in, they mess up, and I just assume they keep out of our water affairs. I would hate to see the legacy of states' rights to their own water be destroyed and water become another federal policy. How would you like to have to go to the federal government to argue whether you got the water or Los Angeles got it? With Los Angeles having 15 million people and you having 3, who's going to win that fight? Maybe that's part of it, but part of it is at a couple of key points. I made speeches in a public venue that got a lot of attention, and I made a speech about agriculture up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, at a convention, and I was there to represent. I was the chairman of the United Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Association, which is a trade association headquartered in Washington, and the guy that runs it's a typical association bureaucrat, and he gave me this canned speech to give, and it was just awful. So I got up and talked about agriculture and the fact that in the livestock business, the Packers and Stockyards Act permitted you to protect your cattle from being leaned, and we didn't have that in the produce business. So I said, I gave this. They had given me this canned speech to give at Sun Valley at that meeting, and I put it away and gave this one I had prepared about trying to get a bill passed authorizing that for the Department of Agriculture, and I got a standing ovation. It was really great. It was a big deal, and it got a lot of attention, and so that was fun. The wonders of production in American agriculture is fantastic. What we've done in the last 100 years. My advice would be to learn about the basic laws regarding Arizona's water rights, what they are and what the dangers are, and be prepared to be involved politically to protect those water rights. When I was made the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, they wanted somebody from the West. Most of the secretaries and deputies and assistants of the Department of Agriculture have always been from the Midwest, Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, and they definitely wanted a Westerner involved, so that's one of the reasons I got selected. Maybe I wasn't so capable, but my geography was good. I'm not even exactly sure what leadership is. Leadership is the ability to get along with people and get them to do what you want to do in a unassuming way, I think. I don't think leadership is the bombastic, you do this style. That's not leadership. That's authoritarianism. Well, I want to give to something I know something about, that I know the integrity and character of the institution is such that my money will be well used. We spend a lot of our lives seeking for ourselves. Often the most rewarding part of our lives is when we seek to honor or do to others. And young people need to hear that lesson a little more clearly than they get it nowadays, I think.
And we've always wanted all of our donations to stay in Arizona.
We won't.
And so we chose the.
We won't give money outside of the state of Arizona, not because there's not some good things to give to, but because there are plenty of unfinished work. There is plenty of unfinished work in Arizona. I think I got interested because I thought that the subject of motherhood, well deserved, gets a world of attention in our society, but at times not so much attention is paid to the role of the father. Now, we all know that a good mother can raise children without a father, but a good father with a positive influence can help and strengthen a family, and I wanted to bring more attention to that subject. Well, my mother and dad were divorced when I was 12, and that was a pretty devastating experience at that age. But they both loved me, and they competed for my attention. It wasn't the healthiest thing in the world, but I lived with it. I knew that I wasn't ever going to get divorced. That was not feasible. Period. But I saw what it did to my mother. It was very destructive to her. My mother was a very smart woman. She graduated from Stanford when she turned
18.
She turned 20 in July, but she graduated in May. She was still 19 when she graduated from Stanford. She was a very bright woman, but she and my father divorced when I was 12, and she was devastated. Her life was never any good after that.
We had taken a trip to Africa, and on the first Sunday morning we were there, we heard about a church that we could attend, and it was, of course, all black. In fact, I think we were the only white people there. And this minister spoke of families and staying together and how important fathers were. And it was just very impressive.
It's great that you remember that. I've often thought I'd give a lot to have a recording of that sermon. It was really powerful.
It was. And we came home and gave it some additional thought, and that is something. At that time, fathers weren't as involved with their families. They went off to work and came home in the evening, and that was about it. So I think that was how the program was created, through those memories.
I will say this, that life is always going to be a challenge, and if you are looking for an easy life, you are improperly motivated, because it isn't an easy life you want, it's an interesting, challenging, and rewarding life you want. And without the challenges, there probably won't be the rewards. If I were running an institution like the University of Arizona or your school, I would challenge my students harder than they want to be challenged. And I'm not trying to make them fail. What I'm trying to do is give them hurdles that they can overcome and gain their self-confidence and really get out of their education something valuable. There has been some dumbing down in education in the United States, which I disapprove of, because that defeats the whole purpose of it. I want your students to know that the opportunity to have a college education is as rare and valuable as having the Hope Diamond, and you better take care of it, nourish it, and appreciate it. The luckiest thing a kid can have is the opportunity to have a college education. I mean, without it, where is he? With it, sky's the limit.